Everyone wants high-performing reps on their team or to become a high-performing seller themselves. But how do you go about doing that? On today's episode, we're going to give you some ideas that can help you do exactly just that. Check it out. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, we have a fantastic guest. Her name is Dayna Williams. She has over 20 years of sales experience, from leading organizations as a CEO to CRO to sales manager to an individual contributor to sales trainer, you name it, and frontline management. So today on this episode, when we talked about this topic of how can we help sellers, she came with a plethora of insights. We had to break it down into 3. So hopefully these can help you just as much as how they've helped me so far. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, subscribe, because the show is designed to help you to 3 to 5x your sales pipeline with quality content, as well as help you to double your close rate. We're going to give you things that can make you improve. Now, if you want to try that, go ahead and test it out. As we dive in, get a chance to learn a little bit more about Dayna and get a chance to understand why she's so awesome and what makes her so much fun. And she has a book as well. It's called The Diligent Fix, and you can find a link down in the show notes. It's a fantastic book, and you can find it on Amazon. I'm looking at it right now, and it's amazing. We had great discussions around some of these principles, and I know you're going to love it as well. Find it again, The Diligent Fix. It's down in the show notes. Let's dive in. Dayna, how you doing?
I'm great, Donald. How are you?
I'm so excited to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
I was bragging about you a little bit in the teaser there, and we know that, obviously this topic is going to be fire, especially we can know how to best develop those reps. But before we dive into all that fun stuff, tell us a little bit more about you and about what you do.
Yeah, so I spent 20 years really sort of in that sales training, sales enablement space. I was a white label consultant for 4 to 5 of the top big provider firms in the space. And what I always start there is because I had incredible access to heads of sales, sales managers, in some cases, co-founders, CEOs over those 20 years. And while the premise of that conversation was because they made a decision to buy training, I was able to rewind and understand the root cause of what was going on within all these different businesses. And Donald, what I learned after, like I said, looking back on it 2 decades, was that most of the root cause issues were the exact same. It did not matter what size industry, what industry you were from, or what size organization or what industry you were from. There was a lot of shared pain points. And so I wrote The Diligence Fix as a way to kind of roll up those insights and provide sort of a bird's eye view into the patterns and trends that I was able to see as a result of that access for 20 years.
Oh, so this is why this episode is going to be so much goodness, so much fire. I'm really looking forward to your insights on it, because when it comes towards developing these high converting sales reps, there's got to be some nuggets that you've seen from all of these different organizations. Yes. And as you said, there's probably some things that we've probably overlooked for years. So I want to dive in. I know there's probably more than 3, but I know for the fact we can identify 3 things today that can help us to develop those high converting sales reps. If you don't mind, tell us what those 3 things are, and then we could take time and go into each of them and break them down.
Yes, great. I love that. So number 1 is simplify and visualize the go-to-market strategy. Number 2 is create a formal, intentional senior leadership communication campaign that you run on the regular internally that reinforces the key points you want your sales team to remember. And then number 3, take a slightly different approach to training than you're doing today, chances are. What I call it integrated training. And we can dive into each one of those in more detail, but that's the high level.
Let's go with number 1. Let's number 1 for 500.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. So the go-to-market strategy. So that's obviously something that at the very top of the ladder, hopefully your sales leader, your CEO, the C-suite, they can articulate at least the headline around what the go to market strategy is. And that's so important because how many times have you heard the word alignment as you work with different individuals? I hear it constantly. And so the question is, what are we aligning to? Okay, well, sure, at the lower level process methodology, I get that. But isn't everybody's job to align at that highest level, which is the go to market strategy? And so at the end of the day, the litmus test, Donald, is I hope your senior leadership can articulate in one, two, three sentences, what your go to market strategy is. But if you were to poll frontline salespeople, how would they do?
Mm.
And if everybody in the organization can articulate it with the same clarity as senior leadership can, that's our first opportunity to develop high converting reps. Because it all starts with why, starts with the North Star.
And I love that when you share, I've worked in an organization where that was not the case, where it wasn't resonated. Like we did not know what was happening. And then the other part to that is when they have the whiplash, where it's like what's the flavor of the month or what's the flavor of the week? Like where my directors may come to us and say, this is what we're doing. But then all of a sudden
Yes.
it's the initiative from higher ups was totally different or changed. And if I can't, like you said, articulate that, it makes it really difficult for me to go to market and to be able to really help that. I love the concept. I feel it like almost like a mantra. Like everybody knows this is our mission. This is our objective, and we are tactfully doing it at different levels. At my
Yes.
level, maybe at individual IC, individual level, individual contributor, we are going out, we're making the calls, we're interacting, we're going to top of funnel. But for our leadership, it's important for just overall the way that we're steering the organization, making sure we have the right tools to give to us, and make sure we have access to the right information. I literally had a call with a friend this morning, and we are talking about the business acumen and how critical that part is. And
Right.
if you're trying to do an initiative and you don't understand what those business acumen are or how you can articulate this to an executive, my goodness, you're efficient. You're dead in the water right there.
I think so. And I love how you kind of sort of reacted immediately with your own story about, seeing that as you go throughout the nooks and crannies of the sales organization,
You're making
everybody has
like
a
therapy
different.
for me now. I have to go back, bring back
I
trauma.
have that effect on people. But no, listen, it's not a good thing if
Yeah.
everybody's interpreting your go to market strategy a little bit differently. We
Hmm.
celebrate innovation and creativity, not at the go to market level. I think you need to have top down clarity, and your litmus test is if you point to somebody on a Zoom call, quarterly meeting, whatever, and you say, hey, go, what's our go to market, plan or strategy in three sentences or less? Your level of variation is a great harbinger of what you're dealing with. We do not want people interpreting that differently. Now, I will give you one quick anecdote, and I'm sure you want to move on, but I had a CRO that I worked with a couple of years ago who was brilliant at this. And actually, it was his discipline that got me thinking about this being a missing piece. What he did, he was trying to pivot the organization from, sort of an a la carte business model to a little bit more of an all inclusive subscription selling on value. And what he did to really get that wedged in people's mind is he had a very simple triangle graph. And he went from conference room to conference room on whiteboards day in and day out, constantly drawing and reinforcing what that is until people actually rolled their eyes because they could finish his sentences. But that is when you have your proof that people are aligned.
Yeah,
Simple
because
triangle, Donald. That's all it
I
took.
just I just drew.
There you have it.
um,
Simple, right? But
yeah,
simple is where we need to head, I think.
yeah, and I think like we feel that it's all. I felt sometimes that it's maybe the fact that I don't give them, they don't have access to the right tools. And there's been studies and proven time and time again that we have a lot. Our tech stacks tend to be bloated with a lot of capability tools, but it's not. We don't know how to best utilize that or to accomplish it, to use them effectively to accomplish that end result. And I love that simplicity factor. So the triangle, guys, write that triangle down
Yep.
so you can do it. All right, you got me at the edge of my seat now. Number two. Number
Number
two. What's
two,
number two?
this is a bit of a variation. So I'd like us to think about the first one as sort of like a set of bookends, right? So the
Uh-huh.
first one we just covered is like kind of one part of the bookend. And
Yeah.
then the second, if you like that, you'll love this one. Okay. So I advocate for a intentional leadership communication campaign that is delivered on the regular using the tool or the mode of your choice, but delivered on the regular to the key roles within the sales organization. Because you had it on your website, and we all know that quote that after 30 days, up to 87, 90% of information is lost without reinforcement. And you and I have learned that day in, day out from the training context, but
Mm-hmm.
let's extrapolate that a little higher. And this is the example I like to use. How many times do you put so much energy into create? I'm talking to like a CRO or a head of sales or somebody at that level. How much time do you put in a first of the year kickoff deck where you're bringing all the salespeople together? I've seen it because you know what? I've gotten hired to come alongside and help in the
Yeah.
past. 90 slides, 80 slides, and jam packed. Here's what we want you to focus on. All that effort that probably causes people to miss Thanksgiving and Christmas to perfect that deck. And then what happens? We go back to our desks. And yes, we may have quarterly business reviews, but how many times do the key points in that deck get distilled down and dripped out throughout the year until it sticks?
Mm.
That's the opportunity. And by the way, if you can't distill your 90 slide deck down into, let's say, 5 to 7 key points that you want to hammer over the next 11 months, then something's missing there too in the form of clarity. But I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and assume you've got buried treasure. That's our opportunity number two.
Hmm.
Second part of the bookend.
So we'll go into that.
Yeah, so I mean, tell me. I mean, so let me feed off of something. What in
Yeah.
there sort of stands out or resonates with you, and I'll key in on some more stuff.
Yeah. So the part that got me is going back to those 90 slides,
Yes.
because I feel that it's the complexity that we make. If it's complex enough, that means it's good. If
Right.
it's if there's a
Yes.
lot of information, that means we've provided the salespeople with tons of stuff for them to take
Right.
with. But there's only a small percentage of that actually stays, or that they'll leave with. I mean, if I like just like you, I get hired to go in and speak at these things, and I try to make sure it's simple. But I see some of the presentations that happen. I'm like, these people are ready to go on a golf course or go to Top Golf like afterwards. They're not taking this stuff in.
Well, that's the other thing. So when let's say I hyper focus on this specific topic, I'll always mention that unless you're really intentional at the event of calling out the 5 to 7 things or 3 to 4 things you want people to walk away with, the only thing they remember when they get home is what type of drink they had at the bar. It never fails. Or, like who like who shot the best round. I mean, exactly. So my point is that's the case even at the end of the event. But
Yeah.
then, Donald, what happens 3, 4, 5, 6 months later? Does anybody retain anything from that kickoff? No. They revert back to how they're being compensated. So
Mm-hmm.
even if you want them to perform to a certain level because they're compensated for certain measures and metrics, that's fine. But what about all the stuff that you spent sleepless nights cramming in that deck because you thought that was also important? If you're not intentional about saying these are the handful of points that I'm going to make sure sticks, I want zero knowledge leakage of these points throughout the year. You
Yeah.
will not get that unless you're intentional about number two. And if you are, that's another sort of pillar of developing high converting reps.
So I may not be able to go. You go back to this, like this intentional campaign. I may not be able to go around to each room and write on a whiteboard. Heck, I probably don't have a whiteboard in every room. But how, like practicality or tactically, how do I do that? Throughout the whole year, or to help them to get that succinct message in a campaign.
Yeah, well, I think it's like anything else. Think about the sales process, and
Yeah.
at the end, when it comes time to close, after you've had robust discovery, you've had a great presentation where hopefully you're linking features and benefits and all those good things. At the end of the day, when you're going down to a close, aren't you focusing and connecting the dots on the primary pain points? So if your
Hmm.
sales cycle's been 9 or 10 months, chances are lots of info has come to bear. But
Yeah.
when it comes to the close, aren't you going with your sure bet? You take the time to focus in and connect the dots between the primary customer pain and your solution. Boom, there's your close. It's
Yeah.
the same thing when you're creating a kickoff presentation or any other seminal sales event. If you're bringing people together for a boot camp or some other type of learning or information imparting event, you want to focus on your close, and your close isn't, keeping everybody high-fiving when you hit the last slide. Your close is, what do I need these people to walk away from, because they're not going to remember slides 1 through 88. What
Mm.
do I absolutely need them to walk away from? So that's a leader holding themselves to a certain level of diligence. That's why I have that title in the book. Holding themselves to a certain level of diligence to take it across the finish line. Don't just stop with a complete deck. Think about how humans learn and how behavior change happens, and build that, code that in to your kickoffs or other similar meetings.
Oh man, we're cooking with hot fish oil right now. This is some good
Smells
stuff.
good.
All right, this is good. This is good. All right, so how do we wrap this up? What's the final third point that we can just wrap it all
Yes.
together with?
Well, I think you're going to love this one because you're a
Yeah.
training guy. And like I said, I cut my teeth for quite some time in the sales training space.
Uh-huh.
So I think if we all have an honest moment,
Mm.
especially, those who are responsible for curriculum and learning paths and all that good stuff, we tend to develop people in a linear, role based way. And that's the way that it's been done. And we're comfortable with it. We can say, selling 101, selling 102, and so forth. When you're identified as a sales manager or a high potential candidate to be a sales manager, now you get manager training, right? Like, would you agree, Donald? Generally
Yeah.
speaking, that's how we approach things. Okay.
100%.
That's not what we're looking for, actually, in terms of how we want people to show up with our
Mm-hmm.
customers. We actually expect them to act as though they're on par, they're a peer with customers all up and down the organizational food chain. We also expect them to behave in the way they manage their time, their resources, as if they were running their own business. How many times have we heard that? And yet, do we train them like that? We do
Nope.
not. We do not. So, the third part that I am advocating in terms of developing high converting reps is take an integrated approach to training. And the best example that I often give people is take consultative selling, whatever form or fashion you want to deliver that, and add on something that would prepare them for their next role at the frontline level. For example, giving and receiving feedback. They can practice in a peer context, and then when they're identified perhaps down the line as a high potential manager candidate, voila, they not only ideally have mastered consultative selling skills, but they now have had and been in good practice around feedback skills. It's just one example. There are dozens.
It's brilliant. I mean, because I've had conversations with folks all the time that they were doing well as a seller, and then now all of a sudden they're like, yes, now we're going to promote this person to a leadership position, but they are clueless on some of the things that's going to be necessary. I remember one company I worked for, this individual. I've referenced her relevant, regularly on the podcast, but she did not have the leadership capabilities, and our team literally suffer. She was it just made it really challenging for everyone to grow, and it wasn't an opportunity to make excuses, but I saw it. But then I transferred to I was in another company with this leader, and big shout out to Lori. And she was an IC before, and she became a sales leader, but she had the guidance, she got the training, and it was a whole world of difference. I had one on one. She understood what was important to me. She understood how to take the feedback and to give feedback, and it empowered me to go forward, and to do better. And I think that's it's a huge bookend, and I think you're saying there's probably several different things that we could identify that can help them to do that. Um, just for time purposes, I mean, dessert. Can you give us a little bit one more example?
Yeah, I would say the other example I would have is around sort of creating some standardization around
Hmm.
manager coaching. and really institutionalizing that as not an expectation, sort of like I assume and I expect that as a manager, you're going to coach your salespeople. I see too much of that. I
Mhm.
think that we need to be more formalized and more visible about establishing standards around coaching. So maybe different internal badging or certification for people who do it well. Maybe there is some sort of monetary or non-monetary award. Maybe there's some sort of extra perk that comes along with the demonstration of a willingness to coach at a high level. But my big pet peeve is and I'm sure you've seen this too. There's this proclamation that managers must coach. Managers will nod while in the back of their head, sort of like rolling their eyes, saying, "You really expect me to add one more thing to my plate? You'll be lucky if I just tell my sales rep what to do on their next call."
Yeah.
And so you have this constant proclamation and then sort of this quiet resistance. And, then you've got enablement and training stuck in the middle. And I think it's long past time that we break that log jam. And
Mm.
one of the ways to do that is to, like I said, become more serious and formalized in terms of how we like credential, badge, recognize, reward, equip managers to actually coach, not just tell people. So that's your bonus. That's your cherry on top of the dessert.
I love it. I love it. If there's one major takeaway you would like somebody listening to this episode to walk away with, wrapping this all up together, what's that one major piece of advice?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to development, training is but one lever. I think we've
Mhm.
all kind of exhausted sort of that. We've tried it a lot of different ways, and there's always going to be a place for training. But you
Yeah.
cannot put the entire weight, the development weight of a full sales organization on the shoulders of training. We need to recognize that there are other touch points that leaders and managers have with people that can be easily converted from sort of one way knowledge episodic transfers into actual development opportunities by just tweaking them a little bit and aligning it to the way that human beings develop habits, retain information, and exhibit behavior change.
I
A
love
little
it.
bit of tweaking can make a big difference.
I love it. I love it. I love it. If there's people out there listening that just fell in love with what you're talking about today, Dania, how did they go about connecting with you?
Yeah, so my website is thediligencefix.com. It's the name of my book, which is also available on Amazon. And there's a contact me form there. It goes right to me. And I'm really not trying to sell you anything. I am here to be a resource to bounce ideas off of. So I take phone calls and I'm happy just to dive in and sort of talk about these topics because they're important and they matter to the work that we do. So I'd invite anybody who's interested to visit me there, thediligencefix.com.
Well, we're putting a link into the show notes so folks can get access to it and check out the book
Nice.
on Amazon. We like it. We're going to recommend it, and you guys will definitely enjoy it as well. So, Dana, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Oh, Donald, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
100%. Perfect. You did everything you needed to do in 20 minutes. That's like we couldn't ask for more.
Really? Oh, good.
We're
I
gonna
wasn't really
edit.
watching the timer, so good to
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
We're gonna edit and tweak, but I thought it was great. You brought good energy, and information was tactical that they can take and apply, and
Yeah.
we'll make it fun, and we'll put the reference to the book. So in the intro, I'm gonna talk about the book, kind of set it up that they can get more information, so that you can get some book sales, or hopefully some teams can buy it or whatnot
Yeah.
for me. So
That'd be great. And then will somebody let me know when the episode is getting ready to launch?
yeah, you'll probably hear from Jill, and she'll
Okay.
let you know that episode's live, and we'll give you the links to it and so forth. So
Awesome. Well, so nice to meet you, Donald. I'm excited. Cheering you on.
well, I appreciate it, and you too, and congrats on all you're doing and with the book and all the work you have. So it's clear to tell you know what you're talking about. So it's fun to chat. Hey, wasn't that good? That's Dayna Williams, I'm telling you. Go ahead and connect with Dayna. Tell her you heard her here on the Sales Evangelist podcast. I'm grateful to have you. And the book, you should check it out. Diligent Fix, great stuff that can help you. The principles are fundamentals, and they're simple and easy to implement, so it's not overly complex. Check it out. Let me know what you think. As always, we want you to thrive and succeed. We want you to raise your level of thinking. We want you to go out and do big things.